are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State holds!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
1:16 to go, 41 yards. Cardona to out. Skowski. 6 titles, 9 appearances. How about the drive to go close it out? You see Tom Brady. Enjoy him, folks. You're never, ever going to see it again. Not in our lifetime. Nope. So here's Zerline, part 1, 48 yards. And left it. No good. The rain continues. Yes, it does. They've got to snap it one more time. The ball will end up in the hands of Tom Brady on the kneel down. And there it is. The dynasty continues.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be back 2 weeks in a row on this show. It feels like it's been a while. It probably has to do with like the sports stuff, like 2 weeks in a row talking sports, specifically football, but it feels good.
Yeah, definitely, and we love talking NFL, and that's what we're going to do this evening, continuing our 2019 NFL preview. Again, we are doing 2 divisions like we did back in the old days per show, just because the summer schedule can get pretty hectic, and since this is the 5th year we'll be doing the Bulldog Hour, we are attempting to most likely do a Bulldog Hour per week during the Wilson High School football season, and that's going to get underway in August. So if we want to have the NFL covered, we need to do it here in May and now in June and through July. So tonight we are going to be looking at the NFC and AFC South divisions, those 8 teams, some of which surprised us last year, and we'll see what we have to say about those squads this evening. But we haven't done this in a while, so I think I want to throw up our contact information because, well, someone took advantage of it and may or may not be listening live. I'm not sure, but because the email was sent about 15 minutes ago, I'd like to think that he is probably listening right now. And if not, well, I know he listens to the archive. I know he's one of the few that listens to the archive. And, well, in his email, he lets us know that he can tell us a lot about this show dating back to at least 2015, and I know he's been an active listener longer than that. So
I was going to say, as long as there isn't a Super Bowl replay on right now, from this past year, I'm guessing he is tuning in. Maybe that Super Bowl 52 one is on. Maybe you can catch that one a little later.
Yeah.
Not. I have a feeling we're going to hear from him again during the show.
Yeah.
It's just a hunch.
Yeah, it seems likely to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it does. But obviously we're referring to my Uncle Rich, the New England sports fan who is once again living it up and, fresh off a Super Bowl championship. It's been a few months
and they're on their way to another one right now.
Right,
so.
Yeah. Fresh off a Super Bowl championship, and here we are now, the NHL. The Bruins are in position to bring home a Stanley Cup, and it would be their second in the last decade as well.
So we could have October, the Red Sox won. February, the Patriots won. Celtics, let's face it, underachieved this year.
Yeah.
And by the way things are shaping up here, maybe, could have made a run at one, so that's a little disappointing there. However, I think they'll be all right coming off those 2 championships, and the Bruins lead in the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. So, yeah, I think think they're doing all right up there in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, no one's shedding any tears for them at all. That that the days of Boston sports fans, the woe is me, that's been over since about 2000. That's the last time. I mean, I guess it probably carried over a little bit the beginning of the Patriots run, because I think a lot of the United States was actually behind them when they started their run to some titles, but things changed. Really, honestly, I think the tides turned when the Red Sox won in 2004. Because they were the lovable losers.
Right.
People were cheering for them on, and then
Absolutely.
they won, and I think people started to be like, all right, this is kind of getting old.
Yeah.
This is kind of getting old. We don't want to hear from them anymore. But
and then around the same time, the Celtics got good.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Once
So
they got
the Celtics
Garnett,
got good.
They had Paul Pierce.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
they went to a couple finals, winning
Right.
one. So
you had that, and you're like, okay. And then the Red Sox win again, and
then the Patriots went all evil on us. So that was
So,
at that time.
the whole
so.
combination of things, and it just hasn't stopped. Still waiting to wake up from that one. But
We may not want to hear from Boston sports fans in general in terms of winning championships, but we do want to hear from sports fans on the show, which unfortunately the one that we heard from is a Boston fan, but we'll take what we can get. If you want to email the show, you can do so at the Mays Sandwich Shop email inbox, Joe Mays and J-Raff at gmail.com. And the phone number is up there, although I don't have the ability to connect that to the board at the moment. I need to remember to bring back the infamous iPhone dongle to get the audio into my mixer. So if you can try to call, it's not going to go well. But definitely follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter. We do have Instagram, though I very rarely update that. So email is the best way to go if you want to have a little fun with us. Contact us, and we'll read your email on the air, which is what we're going to do right now with Rich from Boston, my uncle, and he wrote in just 20 minutes ago. Good evening, guys. I just wanted to let you know who you did pick from last year. When we were talking on episode 277 last week, we were trying to remember who we predicted would win the Super Bowl this past season. And I thought I had Patriots over Rams. And apparently I had flip-flopped, and I went Rams over Patriots. So I was really close. But
you were really close.
As my uncle says, Joey, you had the Rams over the Patriots, close but no cigar. Justin had Eagles over Steelers, wishful thinking.
That was wishful thinking, yes, absolutely.
And I, as in Rich, had Patriots over the Falcons, and he got the right one correct. So he had the Patriots winning, which they did. And he goes on to say, in fact, I can tell you who you picked since 2015. So he must have a ledger, of everything we say. Probably every anti-New England thing we've ever said. He's probably like December 12th, 2017.
So I have the scene from Billy Madison in my mind. He's like crossing it off, hopefully. So.
Maybe he's you haven't seen Game of Thrones, so that would go over your head. Yeah, I'm not going to continue that. My uncle finishes, being retired gives me time to do things like this. So, hey, if that involves always listening to our show or even revisiting our show, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that.
And, of course, he finishes, and one last thing, go Bruins. I say nay. I say go Blues.
Yes, go Blues.
So, thanks to my uncle for writing in, and always entertaining to hear from him. So, we thank him for being a loyal listener, much like... Our fathers, I know, listen often. I don't know if my dad's listening right now because I feel like we were kind of needling my uncle, which he also likes to do, and he hasn't texted us yet, so he may not be available. Maybe his church meeting is still going on. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see.
So, but let's dive into some NFL talk here, and we're going to start in the NFC South, which Justin and I whiffed on, I believe, last year. Completely, because it was 2 years ago that I didn't buy into the Saints. You did, and you were proven correct. Then this past year, we both didn't buy into the Saints, and whoa, we were wrong. Yeah. That didn't go well for us.
You did not.
No, because in 2017, the Saints won 11-5 and won the division. This past year, they improved by 2 games. Yeah. They went 13-3 in 2018, winning that division, and then they beat the Eagles in the second round of the playoffs, the divisional round, in a game that the Eagles woulda, coulda, shoulda won.
Yeah,
in New Orleans.
Played like trash.
Yeah, they didn't have a great game. They just had a tough time.
Offense did not play that well, and yeah, we kind of went into this last week. I'm forever indebted to Nick Foles.
Right.
And it's not just Nick Foles; it was the entire offense. But they couldn't get it done. Like, they did not score a lot of points in either of their playoff games last year. They scored enough in the first game, thanks to the double doink, and then they were driving, but bad bounce, unfortunate missed drop, and they pick it off, and game's over. That one kind of reminded me a little bit of the Eagles driving against the Buccaneers. I believe that might have been 2001. I'm not 100% sure, but they were driving against the Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game at the Vet, and then it got McNabb threw a pick, and the Buccaneers went and they beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl, and that's the year the Eagles should have won the Super Bowl. But anyway, not that I'm still bitter and hanging on to that one at all. But we whiffed on the NFC South last year, and all right, what do you think happens this year?
Yeah,
we're going to start at 4 again. Is that?
Yeah, we are going to start at 4.
I don't even know where to go.
I know that's why I'm kind of stalling here.
Because I'll throw it out there. I could have the Panthers as the worst team in this division. What can Cam Newton do? Supposedly he started throwing last week. Okay, it kind of worries me that a quarterback went from January to end of May without being able to throw. However, if he is healthy, like, there's a lot of speculation that he wasn't healthy at all almost the entire year last year. And they had a stretch where they were really hot, and then they took a dive.
They were 7-9 overall. That's what they finished last year, and they were 6-2 on November 4th when they beat the Buccaneers at home in Carolina.
Right.
Then they went on a road trip, 4 road games in 5 weeks.
Right.
And they did not do well. Yeah, that was kind of the beginning of the end right there. The Steelers took it to them at Heinz on November 8th, which was that a Thursday game? So it was a short week on the road. They looked awful. They had to go to Detroit. They didn't lose by a point. They come home for their lone home game against the Seahawks. Granted, the Seahawks had been playing really well at that time.
But I think that was an early East Coast game.
Right. So generally Seahawks don't perform as well when they have to play in that situation, but they ended up beating the Panthers. Then they finished the road trip with the 4 and 5 weeks at Tampa and at Cleveland and lose both of those. So they go into this 5-game stretch at 6-2 and they come out of it 6-7. Didn't lose or win a single one. Oh, and then they lost the next 2 weeks as well.
And to top it off, they win at the Saints in the last week in a meaningless game to the Saints, but it hurts their draft position.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, it wasn't great for the Panthers
The
last
entire
year.
second half of the season did not go at all how it should have gone. The only game they won was the one they should have tried to lose.
Right, yeah. So, not great. Not a great season for the Panthers.
However, if Cam Newton was hurt, and he did not look like himself that entire November, December stretch, I'm not saying... there's a lot of wear and tear on Cam Newton at this point in his career. But I still think a healthy Cam Newton and a healthy Christian McCaffrey, who at times last year,
man, what a playmaker.
Right. But I just don't know. I just don't know. I don't trust Will Grier as the backup. They brought him in. When did they draft Grier? Do you know what round?
Third, I think he was pick 100 or something like that.
Guys skipping.
Third round, pick 100
status.
Yeah, well, I guess they thought he was gonna go earlier. I don't know. I never really heard him mentioned in the first round.
Well,
so
I
guess you look at it this way: if he gets hurt, he might not get drafted.
Right, and that might just be my misunderstanding because I thought maybe he was a higher end guy just from hearing things. Not that I actually thought he was, but then that he goes and gets hurt, and then maybe he falls to middle rounds, and he went in the middle rounds anyway. Now, that being said, I don't blame the guy. You're right. If you're saying, look, you could go play in essentially a meaningless game, an exhibition game, more or less. Meaningless, I don't like that term as much because you watch those games and they don't all come across that way. Some do, but not all of them.
The closer you get to New Year's, the more meaningful they are.
But, but like you're going to go and hopefully make millions of dollars, like, and you can't get hurt between now and then. Okay, like I understand, like, but yeah, I just if Cam Newton's healthy, I think they could compete at the top end of that division. If he's not, I think they're the worst team in the division.
So where do you have them? Where do you think it's going to be?
It's really tough to say, but like I'm going to go on the low end. I think I'm going to put them at 6 wins because even if Cam Newton is
it's
healthy,
a step back.
I think it's going to be, I think it is a step back, and I think this is the year that we see a coaching change in Carolina.
Yeah, I actually am completely on the same page as you. I agree. I think I'm going to drop the Panthers to 4. I'm going to have them. Actually, I'm going to have them even worse. I'm going to say 5-11, which because this is a complete 180 for me because I had the Panthers winning the division last year.
The talent's there.
Yeah, this is one of those that this could be a massive whiff. Like this could be a team that rebounds and goes 12-4.
But this is another one where some of the key players. Like, it doesn't take much for this team to be the worst team. You know, like, it's not – I feel like they need a lot more to go right in order to be good than pieces to go wrong to go bad.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
right. No, I get it. I mean, McCaffrey is one of the better athletes in the league right now with what he can do out of the backfield or in the slot. You know, just get the ball in his hands and he can make something happen. The receivers, I don't think, are that bad. They brought in Hogan. DJ Moore's now, a couple years in the league, and he's a speedster. Aldrick Robinson is bounced around, but I mean, he's like your 5,
right.
So no issues there. Curtis Samuel is starting to come into his own, and we know what we got out of Torrey Smith too. Right. Oh, and they have Jarius Wright. Like, there's depth there.
No, absolutely.
Is there a huge standout guy? Not necessarily, but there's a mixture there that can serve them well. Now, where I think it gets a little iffy is, while I like Greg Olsen at tight end, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Nope. He's not the same player he was 5 years ago. Offensive line seems to always be in upheaval. Right. They did bring in Greg Little in the second round, so he should help out there.
Oh, and your quarterback's already
and that's the biggest thing is, people were kind of making a big deal about them taking Will Grier in the third round, top 100 pick, right at 100. Right. What's the status of Cam Newton? Everyone, including the quarterback himself, says he'll be fine. But, look what happened with Andrew Luck a few years ago when he was going through shoulder-arm issues. Right. That sidelined for a while, and he was a lot younger than Cam
And
is.
You know how they built? They built from the line. And that's why the Colts returned last year. Because Andrew Luck was able to stay healthy.
Right. And it took him 4 games to shake off the rust.
Andrew Luck was able to be the quarterback that he needs to be for them to be really good because they were able to protect him. I don't know that when Cam Newton gets back to 100%, that they are going to be able to protect him, which means will he get back to 100%, which means where are they? Are they that... I think they're somewhere between the way they started last season and the way they finished last season. But I'm worried, and I think as we get to some of the other things here, I think the other teams in the division, I don't know that the Saints, quote unquote, got better, but I think the other 2 teams did. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think my bigger issue, the biggest issue is Cam Newton's health and what can he do at this stage of his career. But on the other side, I don't know what to think about their defense.
If they do need Will Grier, there are weapons there, like you mentioned. Right. So it would be interesting, but he's a rookie. I don't know.
We focus all on McCaffrey, but I like the rest of their backfield as well. Artis Payne, local, Harrisburg guy. Yeah. They also have Elijah Holyfield, kind of a famous father there. I believe he was a priority free agent. I don't even think he was drafted.
I think so.
And they also have Elijah Hood. So, they have a stable of running backs that'll be fine that, can take some of the onus off Christian McCaffrey or just serve as a change of pace, whatever. So the offense, I think, is okay if the line is okay or if Cam Newton stays healthy. But defensively, they got 2 linebackers. And now, because of the way offensive plays, defensively, maybe you only need the 2. Kuechly and Shaq Thompson. But
Kuechly, I love
concussions and injuries.
There's nothing to not like about Luke Kuechly. I worry about
other than you went to Boston College and not Penn State.
Well, that's yes, okay. But to be fair, if you're not going to Penn State, go to Boston College.
Yeah, why not?
But that's one where I worry because some of those concussions the last couple of years you've watched and you're just like, is he done? Like, is he done? And I know you can't diagnose concussions that way, and I know that they're all different and everybody handles them different, but that's one where I worry because, like, he's had so many, or at least it seems like he's had so many, but he is so good. Every game they talk about how the linemen are talking about how he's over there just screaming what play is going to be run because he just is a savant when it comes to recognizing that stuff from film study. You know, I don't want to say savant. I don't mean to make it sound like he doesn't put the work in. He obviously does.
He has so much preparation and, that his awareness is off the charts.
Even if you have guys with a physical capability that can step in behind him, you don't replace that. And you can almost be guaranteed that there's a couple games at least this year where they won't have that. So we'll see.
So we've got some comments here that we've got a few listeners, including my uncle.
Yeah.
My mom chimed in and goes, "Oh no, not Bruins," which makes me happy.
Pin that comment.
And a few others watching as well as John and Jason. So a couple people bouncing in, hanging out with us, talking NFL. But to wrap up the Panthers, I think my biggest issue is I don't know what to make of their defensive backfield. Yeah. And also, like, there are some names and potential along the defensive line, but when they were really good in the early 2000s, they had an incredible, 2003? Yeah. They had an incredible defensive line.
They had Hall of Fame worthy guys.
Yeah, they had great defensive linemen.
You know what great defensive linemen help with? Hiding a questionable
defensive
secondary.
Backfield, yes. So I just don't know what they're going to do in the defensive backfield, if anyone's going to step up, make a name for themselves, because none of those names jump out to me, and I can't say that I know they're too deep, like the back of my hand or even off the top of my head, but no one jumps out as a playmaker, shutdown guy, and in this league now, you've got to have that. So I'm a little worried about that.
To be honest, yeah, because they don't have corners like that in my mind. Eric Reed is probably their best defensive back. And I mean that as Eric Reed's a solid defensive back. But like you said, he's not anymore. The way defenses are played, you need guys that can shut down guys, and I don't see one there necessarily.
Right. So we both have Panthers in 4th. You have them 6-10. I have them 5-11, which brings us to place number 3. Who you got number 3 in the NFC South this season?
I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
5-11 last year, 4th place. Dirk Cutter got the axe. He's gone. New coach, familiar, Bruce Arians.
Dirk Cutter should have never been the coach there, but
right, that was something. Yeah, that was something else. So that was previous stuff. We're not going to worry about that now. Bruce Arians is back after his year hiatus?
Yeah.
After retiring, leaving the Cardinals, who also axed their coach after 1 year. But Bruce Arians is in Tampa Bay now. They're a team, we kind of talked about them last week, that they kind of became like the new Jaguars. Like, everyone thought the Jaguars would be good, and it took them 3 years to get there.
Yep.
Well, 3 years ago, everyone thought the Bucs were going to be good when Winston was entering his second or third year, and that just hasn't happened. But is a new coaching staff going to shake things up, and can we see a change in 3 to 5 wins this year in the positive?
I think so. I really do. I think that if there's going to be a guy who gets it out of Jameis Winston, I think it's Bruce Arians.
And if not, they're going to be looking for a new quarterback.
Yeah, because the way the contract situation plays out, it's not a Bruce Arians. I mean, unless they don't win a game, But that's not going to happen. This isn't if the quarterback situation fails, the quarterback or the head coach is gone. No. That's not how that goes. I feel like that kind of could explain the Carolina situation. If Cam's not ready to go, that could be bad news for Ron Rivera.
Right.
Obviously, that's not breaking news. That if you have quarterback issues, that the head coach is not going to be in a good spot. But here, I think if he's gone, then it becomes an audition to see who they are, and they're drafting a quarterback next year in the first round. That being said, I think he is going to turn things around with Jameis at least enough to make it interesting, because it's going to be really interesting. What do you do? Do you still draft the young guy? Like, let's say Winston's not let's say he gets to that point where he's between the 10, if you were ranking your quarterbacks, he's in the 10 to 16 range.
Right.
Okay, well, now do you still, because you're still going to have to pay him a bunch of money at that point to keep him. Do you keep him and try and build, or do you say, well, maybe we can draft the quarterback and in another year get him into the top half, and in the top half we can then be saving a ton of money on the cap and sign all these other guys? It just becomes a really interesting strategy at that point, and I have no idea what you do. But I think they're better. I think they win 8 games. I think Bruce Arians is exactly what the offense needs. There's lots of weapons there. Some of them inconsistent, including Winston. But I think if anyone can get the most out of Winston, I think it's going to be Arians. I don't know if the most is good enough for Winston, right. But I still think they're better by a couple games. And so I'm going to put them at 8 wins, actually. So 3 games, not a couple. But that's been an issue in our houses. Like a couple, if that's not 2, I get yelled at now.
Right, yeah.
And not by my wife. It's by my 5-year-old.
Oh, I thought it was going to be Colton.
No, he just...
That was his first words.
Yeah. A
couple is 2. Now, if that's not his first phrase, now I'm going to be disappointed.
I'll see what I can do.
All right, so
play it on loop.
So you're going with the Buccaneers, 3rd place, but up to 8-8. So that's an improvement of 3 wins, right? They were 5-11 last year. So I'm going to have 3rd place team 8-8, the New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
I'm not anti-Saints by any means, but I just feel like I have to be right about this at some point, that the Saints are going to take a step back.
They're like the anti-Patriots, right? Where in the sense that like every year AFC East, we talk a bunch about the other teams, but we just basically gloss over, we picked the Patriots to win because until we've seen otherwise, we're picking them. Here, we're like, nope.
The Saints have to be bad. This is the year.
Fool us 4 times, shame on me.
Well, that's what it's essentially going to be next year. Inevitably, when the Saints go like 11-5 this year, win the division again, I'm going to look like a moron. But that's fine. I've looked like a moron plenty of times on this show and off this show. So I'm not really worried about that. I'm going to say Saints here, 3rd place, 8-8. Take that step back, a pretty big step back because they were 13-3 last year. But I just feel like that was massive lightning in a bottle. I just don't feel they can replicate that success again. They have some turnover. We know that they have changes in the backfield. It is completely Kamara's team. Not that it really wasn't last year, but he's the guy.
But there are whole big stretches where he didn't play a whole lot, and I don't know that they can get away with that again.
Drew Brees
however, great fantasy pick.
Yes. Drew Brees is masterful, but again, I feel like at some point his health and age is going to catch up to him, and he's going to take a step back. And as soon as he takes a step back, I just don't think they're going to be the same team.
At some point, it's going to catch up to him that Michael Thomas is the only real good wide receiver.
And that was my next thing. So Cameron Meredith had a great year a few years ago for the Bears, a couple years ago for the Bears. But he hasn't done too much since. Ted Ginn, he's good for a speedy, big play every so often, but
he's also good to be out a few weeks
and to drop some passes. Who else there really helps you out a lot? They have a few rookies in there, but Michael Thomas is the guy, and you would think eventually teams would double or triple team him to take him away, which I guess they were double teaming him last year. Didn't really do too much to help because he just had another monster year. Right. But I look at that and I'm just like, there's just not a lot of weapons there. It's Breeze to Thomas with a little Kamara, thrown in there. Right. That's it. So if one of them gets hurt or is gone, especially if it's Breeze, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, they have interesting names there from college ranks, JT Barrett and Teddy Bridgewater, but not NFL success.
No.
Tight end, they brought in Jared Cook. That could help. But this is like his 5th team in how many years?
Like 8 years ago.
Right.
Probably more.
Now, offensive line, I do think they have a decent offensive line when healthy again. Teron Armstead is a good player. Marshall Newhouse Andrus Peat, Ryan Ramczyk, those Wisconsin offensive linemen, always good. And they now have Larry Warford. So
like building a log cabin across your front lawn.
They have the horses. So I think they just don't have an overwhelming amount of talent at the skill positions. They have the guy, and they have a really good one at 3 spots. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and Drew Brees, that three-headed monster can go up against most teams.
They have all pro caliber guys at 3 positions on offense.
I just worry about them now because, Buck Allen hasn't had a lot of success in the league.
No.
Latavius Murray is bounced around and is coming off of injuries. If they lose Kamara, because now that they let Ingram go, what do they have there? Same thing with receivers. You lose Michael Thomas, oh man, and if you lose Breeze, I'm sure Bridgewater's the guy. And I still was high on him. Wouldn't have mind if he went to Miami in a prove-it deal this year. But comparing him to Breeze, it's a non-starter. No. And defensively, they have been a bend, don't break, and capitalize on turnovers. And at some point, you go back to the mean, you regress.
And a lot of that is based on the offense.
Right.
So, the years the offense has been good, the defense has been better. Although I know there have been years where they were scoring a lot and giving up a lot, but that sometimes can be how that goes too. But
and they have undersized linebackers. I love that Anzalone's down there. The Wyomissing grad. That's great to see him. But Demario Davis, these guys. I mean, and they use it as motivation. People talk down on them, and I'm not trying to add fuel to the fire there, but I don't know. Something tells me that the Saints are going to be one of those surprise teams this year that takes a step back. And, maybe, I don't want to talk myself out of it because I want to stick to my guns, but if they stay healthy, I think they will be okay and better than 8-8. I guess I'm just banking on either age regression or an unfortunate injury to drop them to 3rd place.
Right. Or just, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me, but I'm not picking it. I'm not picking it yet.
All right, so let's find out. Are we going to flip-flop our 2 and 3? I'll go first this time. My second is going to be your third, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they're going to just be one game better than the Saints. And this is my first real shock maybe to people. But after last week going the same 1-4 as this year, the way it finished, I think, if not in both divisions, close to it. I feel like I have to shake it up a little bit. So that's why I dropped the Saints to 3rd at 8-8. I'm bouncing the Buccaneers from 5-11 to 9-7, 2nd place in the NFC South. And you kind of talked about them already with why you think they're going to be 3 games better this year. Same reasoning for why I think they're going to be 4 games better this year and just squeak past the Saints in the 2nd place. Not really challenging for wild card. I don't think 9-7 is going to get that done. And, it sounds crazy to talk about an offense that has Breeze versus Winston. But if Winston takes that step forward, I think maybe the depth outweighs what the Saints have. The Saints have better individual players. They're the ones at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver than the Buccaneers. But if Winston takes a step forward, obviously huge positive. But then at running back, okay, you don't have a Kamara there, but you have guys that have done it in Barber, Ellington, and Jones.
Right.
Wide receiver is huge for me because Michael Thomas, I would say, probably better than Mike Evans, but if Michael Thomas is 1A, Evans is 1B.
Right.
And then Chris Godwin, PSU, has now entrenched himself as the number 2 guy with Deshaun Jackson gone, and he had a great year as the 3 last year, and I expect him to have a huge year as a 2 this year.
Yeah, I think that I agree with that.
And then they brought in the speedster from the Ravens. They couldn't do much there, Brashad Perriman, and then you have a couple other guys, miscellaneous parts, but I think Evans and Godwin is better than Thomas and basically nobody.
I agree.
And tight end, not even close. No. I would take O.J. Howard and Cameron Braid over everything that the Saints have.
Yes.
So depth-wise, I believe the Bucs have them beat. And I don't dislike their offensive line. Earl Watford, Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet, who is one of my favorites, DeMar Dotson. They have horses there too. So I think the Bucs, maybe they're not as flashy or as seasoned. I think there's a lot of potential there. Defensively, I think that's where we could see Bruce Arians influence the most.
I agree.
Which kind of sounds crazy, but I think it will. I think it will help.
Who do you bring in as the defensive coordinator?
Todd Bowles.
Yeah, Todd Bowles, and defense is where he's gonna. I think Yeah, I think they're going to be better offensively and defensively. I didn't have the guts to give them more than 3.
I
more
gave
than
them
3.
4. So.
Right? No, but I think that's huge, and I don't know. I'm kind of, I don't know. It's weird to say I'm kind of rooting for that because I don't know. I hope Chris Godwin has a great year.
So I'm rooting for it not that I'm a Jameis Winston fan or anything, but I want Chris Godwin to have a good year.
Right.
And also, this team hasn't made the playoffs since 2007.
Look at this.
Yeah, I was just going to point this out.
Go
So the Bucs haven't made the playoffs since 2007 when they won a division, so it's been 12 years. But we look at this every year at staffs, and that former players are now higher ups on staff. So in Tampa Bay, Byron Leftwich, the former quarterback, is the offensive coordinator.
Who had broke in Arizona, I believe.
Yeah,
last year.
I think he was on Arians' staff and retained. And now he's gone and met up with Arians in Tampa Bay. Offensive assistant Antoine Randall L.
Gosh, I never forget seeing him play against Penn State at Beaver Stadium as like the only player on Indiana's team. Yeah.
Larry Foote, outside linebackers.
Yep.
Cody Grimm, a defensive special teams assistant.
That's awesome.
Chris Bonial, specialist.
Oh, yeah.
So, a lot of former NFL players. I mean, obviously that happens all the time, but these are guys that we watched growing up or, in through a high school and college. So it's interesting to see them taking leadership and coaching roles. So that's where I have the Bucs. Who's your number 2?
At number 2, I'm going the Falcons. So I think the Falcons changed offensive coordinators, and I think that is going to pay dividends for them. I think they were close last year. You look at some of their losses. They lost 12-18 against the Eagles to open. They lost in overtime against the Saints. They lost by 1 to the Bengals. They lost by 3 to the Cowboys. Those were their only close losses. But like, even if 2 of those go the other way, you never know how things will turn out. I just think they're going to get things clicking this year. I know over the last couple years they've kind of evened things out. For a while, when they were really good, the defense was kind of a question mark. Before they were really good, the defense was kind of a question mark. It kind of stabilized a little bit. I think the offense takes a step forward, and I think the defense is good enough to be the second place team there. But honestly, I'm still going to put them at like 9 wins. Like I think they're better than the Bucs, maybe. Like I think the high end for the Falcons is really high. I don't know that the high end for meaning I think the Falcons could make the playoffs. I don't think they do, but I think they could. I don't know that the Bucs, to go from what they were to the playoffs would be pretty crazy. I mean, it would be cool to see. Those are fun stories to watch a lot of times. But when I look at it, I think Matt Ryan is solid. It's interesting in the backfield there a little bit because they have Devontae Freeman, but they who was it that they let go?
Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, Tevin Coleman is gone. Which
is in San Francisco.
Right, they're going to have to make it. They have Ito Smith, who at times flashed last year, more out of necessity last year than anything else. So, kind of interesting there. Julio Jones is really good. There isn't a lot of help. Mohamed Sanu played really well at times. They need more out of the guys like Justin Hardy. Calvin Ridley is a key piece, and I think as he develops, I think Calvin Ridley is going to be that too to Julio Jones. I just think the new offense there is good. I'm not a Sarkisian fan.
Well, they brought in your buddy from Tampa Bay, so. I mean, you just didn't want him as head coach, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Well, we'll give him a shot. Change of scenery. But, yeah, I don't know.
So you have them at 9-7 in second place, which means your number 1 is New Orleans.
It is, yeah.
Okay. Well, my number 1 is Atlanta, and it's mostly. I feel like it mostly not really contrarian, but I wanted something different. I didn't want the Saints. I didn't like picking the same teams out west last week, so I wanted to change it up a little bit, and we talked about the question marks around the Panthers. I didn't think the Bucs could take a huge leap forward like that. So the only team I had left really was Atlanta. So I'm kind of begrudgingly settling with them because, we're not Matt Ryan haters by any stretch, but he was never our guy that we kind of thought that he was a bit overrated at times.
Yes, I agree, but now I kind of feel like it has swung the other way.
Now you think he's underrated?
Lots of people I think feel like he's not good enough now. And no, I think he is good enough. I think basically you're right. Like it does sound kind of funny. Like for a long time I was banging the drum on the overrated, right? Like absolutely.
Him and Flacco.
Yeah. But now I feel like people write him off like he's a liability, and I don't agree with that at all. Like I think he's good enough if the rest of the team is good enough. I don't know that he's not going to carry them. Like when I say that, I don't mean I mean Brady. And I know that's ridiculous because you're comparing him to arguably the best ever. But there are certain guys who are going to carry the team at Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be Drew Brees. He's not going to be Tom Brady. He's not going to be Rodgers at his best, but he's good enough. Gosh, I can't believe they didn't run the ball against the Patriots.
So this could be the last go-round for the Falcons. I think they break through. I think it's a close race. I don't think anyone leaps, wins 13 games in this division. I think Atlanta wins it at 10-6. I think Ryan has a great year, and I think that's because they have a healthy Devontae Freeman, which they didn't have last year. I think he played 3 games or something like that. They got
that's my concern because if he can be the guy, great. Then
he was a top 5 guy in 2017.
The loss of Tevin Coleman isn't as big of a deal. Kenyon Barner can kind of play that slash role, that they could do.
You mentioned Ito Smith, but they also brought in Quadre Ollison, who I should not like because he's a pick guy, but he looked really good against Penn State and made me remember who he was.
Yeah.
So I think he has potential there as, a third running back that could become and maybe even replace Tevin Coleman down the line. Wide receiver-wise, I actually think that they have a really solid foursome with, obviously, Julio Jones, but again, we might start seeing him trend backwards, much like when he took over for Roddy White.
Yeah.
I think Calvin Ridley's ready to take that next step and soon become the guy in Atlanta. And I like Sanu and Justin Hardy. I think that's a really strong quartet of wide receivers. And at tight end, I think Hooper, Paulson, and Stocker are a great trio there.
Waiting for Hooper to
break out a little bit more.
He hasn't, but that's okay.
It kind of went to what's his name from San Francisco last year. Hooper's the guy that I thought he would become. What's his name? The guy from Iowa, right? From Iowa.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Little. It's not Kittle.
Yeah. But you look at it. If Ridley's good, I'm not worried about Ridley. If Julio is just himself, if Sanu and Hardy are up there, then that's going to make one of those tight ends have a great year.
And also open up the backfield for Freeman and Barner or Freeman and Ito, whoever they go with. And I think their offensive line could be returned to a strength.
That's
because,
the key.
Jake Matthews is great. Alex Mack's incredible center. They drafted Chris Lindstrom to come in and compete at guard where they already had Jamon Brown and James Carpenter. I just think
Alex Mack was the free agent signing that they made and then went to the Super Bowl the next year.
Right, yeah.
They made him the highest paid center in the league. And it worked.
And they got names on defense. They just have to figure out where the parts go and to get everyone on the same page. Vic Beasley, Michael Bennett, Adrian Claiborne, Rashid Hageman, Grady Jarrett, Tack McKinley, who's been seeing some time at linebacker. All these guys, they can rotate through tackles, ends, and rush spots like Beasley, to kind of counteract maybe their slightly undersized or underappreciated linebackers like Bruce Carter and mostly Deion Jones, who doesn't get a lot of credit but is a strong performer for them. And in the secondary, I like Keanu Neal. I like J.J. Wilcox. I'm a big fan of Desmond Trufant when he was coming out of Washington. And I think they also have guys opposite them and to back them up that can play really well. And Kazee at free safety, too. I think he's massively underrated. So, I just think I need a team to step up in the NFC South, and I'm just going with the Falcons, maybe a little begrudgingly, and I don't think it'll be by a lot, but that's who I have at number 1, the Falcons. So Why do you have the Saints at 1? Do you have anything to add to my Saints discussion?
I think the Saints are going to regress a little bit. 13 wins is kind of high. I still think they're in that 10 to 11 range. I'm going to put them at 11, basically based off of you had the Bucs winning 9, I had them winning 8. So that extra win, I'm going to toss in here.
Okay.
Not that we add them up, but like I'm going to toss them in. By the way, Kevin, who we follow on, I can't think of his last name, but he does a lot of
McGuire?
college. Yeah. He was talking about I think it might have been his college football, or it might have been, it must have been college football because that's what he talks about. But he has like a spreadsheet where he goes through and he picks the games. Like that's awesome.
That is awesome.
But anyway, we don't add up the wins necessarily.
No,
However,
they definitely don't come out to 254.
It would be fun to do
whatever.
1 year. It would be a lot of work.
That would be a lot of work. That would be a lot of work.
There's got to be a place that allows you to do it.
Oh, I'm sure there's somewhere online that does.
But anyway, I think they come back a step. I do have some of the same worries you do, except I am going with here in this situation. Who do I trust the most? And still at this point, I trust Drew Brees the most. I think they get enough to get it done. I think the defense is good enough. I think the offense has a slight step back. I think we might see someone step up opposite of Michael Thomas and kind of help him out a little bit there. I really like Kamara, even though, man, that was a tough loss for the Eagles last year. But, yeah, that's all right.
All right, so that's our NFC South preview. We both have the... Wait, who do we have in last place?
So we had the Panthers in last.
The Panthers in last place. Then I had the Saints in third.
I had the Bucs.
You had the Bucs in third. I had the Bucs in second. You had the Falcons in second. I had the Falcons in first, and you had the Saints in first.
That's about as not lined up as our picks ever really get.
And so that'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
So
and how much
if you're going to place a bet, put big money on the Panthers.
Yes, there you go. Exactly. So AFC South, I know we don't have a ton of time here, but let's get through the AFC South. A little refresher on the AFC South last year.
It's a really interesting division.
It is a very interesting division. The Texans won it at 11-5, but they fell to their divisional rival, the Colts, in the wild card playoffs. The Colts went 10-6, but were playing better at the end of the year. That, was just 1 year after the Jaguars won the division at 10-6 and then shouldn't have lost the AFC Championship to the Patriots, but we saw the Jaguars take a huge step back and look really bad this past year. But it's kind of been a Texans and Colts division for a long time, save for that Jaguars win in 2017. And much like the Bucs in the NFC South, who haven't won the division since 2007, the Titans are on a decade-plus drought of a division championship, not winning since 2008.
They've been good, but just not good enough.
Right. They've made the wild card a few times. They made it in actually just 2017 because they made it in 2007, the year before they won the division. So the Titans have only been to the playoffs once since their last division championship. We saw that happen in 2017, but what's going to happen with these teams this year? So we're going to start at the bottom. I'll go first this time to pick my worst team, and I'm sticking with the same team as last year, the Jaguars. They were 5-11, and I just don't know, why are they going to be better this year? There's so much dysfunction.
Because they have a Super Bowl caliber quarterback now.
Okay, I understand what Nick Foles did in Philadelphia, but I just think
the last 2 weeks that I'm indebted to him forever. I can't bash him now.
Well, fine. Then when they go 16-0, you can jump on board here. But they keep adding players to that defense.
No, to be clear, I don't want that to happen. No offense, Nick.
Oh yeah, that would.
I don't want that to happen.
They keep adding.
Can you imagine if it was an Eagles Jaguars Super Bowl? That is not my pick, but can you imagine?
Or the Jaguars go.
I just gave myself an
ulcer. The Jaguars go 14-2, and the Eagles go 3-13.
I gave stop it.
Okay, so the Jaguars keep adding to that defense, but they keep adding incredible players, but they've got egos on the defense already that they kind of need to rein in. Not saying Josh Allen is. No. I don't know that much about Josh Allen from Kentucky, though. I don't wish him well because of what he ruined New Year's this past year. So nothing for you, Josh.
Happy
Allen.
New Year.
Yeah. Okay, so, but yeah, Jaguars 5-11 last year. Doug Marrone he is what it is, I guess. I don't know. He didn't work out in Buffalo. He kind of messed up at the end of the 2017 season. Him and the offensive coordinator kind of ruining the AFC Championship game. I'm just kind of waiting for Tom Coughlin to do something, but hasn't really gone in his direction. Now they have John DeFilippo as the offensive coordinator. That's where he is now. And, we'll see what he's able to do down there. I like the wide receiver coach, Keenan McCardell. There's a Jaguars throwback for you. But Justin, mentioned Nick Foles at quarterback, upgrade over Blake Bortles probably because of what he's been able to accomplish. But again, there's a reason that Foles has bounced around the league. He hasn't been able to do it long term. He had an incredible playoff run for the Eagles. Didn't look good at the beginning of last year for Philly. Then took over for Wentz and looked good again. Right. Although, the game against the Saints didn't go their way. Right. Running back wise, is Fournette good to go mentally and health wise? If not,
I completely understand all these points you're making, but
and then they have names that were receiver. Keelan Cole had a great year last year as a nobody. They brought in Chris Conley from the Chiefs. They have Marquise Lee. They just signed Terrell Pryor, and they have D.D. Westbrook. Lots of names, lots of college potential there, but do they have it?
Is their schedule here?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Tight end wise, nothing sticks out. Just a couple of guys. They drafted Josh Oliver. They have Jeff Swaim, James O'Shaughnessy, and Ben Koyak, but nothing stands out there. A couple cast-offs along the offensive line now. No real standouts. They've been having issues there as well the last couple of seasons. But I mentioned defensively, the defensive line, the front seven should be incredible. Adding Allen as like a hybrid edge rusher there to Calais Campbell, who's been amazing. Marcel Darius, who's a former top 3 pick in the league. Yannick Ngakoue. Just lots of talent and depth there. And you got to make sure that your defensive coordinator can find the right pieces in the right formations. And linebacker, again, same thing. Miles Jack. Jake Ryan, Ray McWilson, Telvin Smith. There's talent and depth, and I didn't even mention Najee Good. So there's talent and depth there. And defensive back, we know they brought over last year, upgrading a defensive backfield by adding A.J. Bowie to Jalen Ramsey. It didn't work out in their favor, though. But, that should be a lockdown top 2 cornerback tandem right there. And it just didn't work out. So they've got a lot of divas and drama and attitude that when things are going good, that works in your favor. But when it goes bad quick. And I just don't know that I have the same confidence as Philly does in Nick Foles that they're going to be much better this year. Maybe I'll give them a win and say they go 6-10, but I think they're the worst team in the AFC South.
Can you pull up that schedule?
Yeah.
Just to see it. Because I want to see what it looks like. Oh, my gosh. You start with Kansas City, then you have the Texans, and then you have the Titans. So that's tough.
Loss to me.
Yeah.
Like they're not beating the Chiefs, and I don't think they're beating Houston.
But then I think they could win the next 3. Winning at Denver's tough. But I think they're better than the Titans. So
right.
Kind of a
spoiler
here for where I'm going. But I think they're better than the Titans. I think they're better than the Broncos, although winning at Denver is tough. And I think they're better than the Panthers.
They're not better than the Saints. They're probably better than the Bengals.
Than the Bengals. I think they're better than the Jets. Ooh,
see, that's a push
that might
to me.
Be a push. Then they got Texans. They're not as good as the Colts. Better than the Titans. Bucks, I kind of put a push.
They're not better than the Chargers.
Not better than the Chargers. Better than the Raiders.
Might be better than the
Not
Raiders.
better than the Falcons.
Not better than the Colts. That's
so
5 or 6 wins. Like that's I just don't see them winning more than 5 or 6 games.
See, now you have me doubting myself.
Well, you were clearly going to go Titans fourth.
I am going to go Titans
fourth. All right, let me throw it on me because they're my third. They're my
I'm
three.
going Titans fourth because while I think that Bruce Arians is going to turn the Jameis Winston scenario into a tough decision for Tampa, I just feel like the Titans this season is going to make it that they have to look quarterback after this season. I like Marcus Mariota. I like him a lot. At the time, I was all in on the Eagles getting him because they had Chip Kelly, and I'm like, if you're going Chip Kelly, you have to go full Chip Kelly and get Marcus Mariota.
You don't go half Chip Kelly, you go full Chip Kelly.
Right. Like if you're going in on Chip Kelly, you have to just let him do his thing. That was a disaster in its own right, but whatever. I just think, one, I really like what Derrick Henry did at the end of last year. They have some weapons outside. Corey Davis is kind of there, like sometimes. I just don't think they have what it takes. I don't know that they have the weapons. Mariota at times plays brilliant, and then at times does not, and is hurt the other time. So like it's kind of like a third and a third and a third. While they've always been, we've kind of said that they're right there. I just don't know that they have what it takes to make that next step. I think some of the other teams in the division have gotten better. I think that the Jags, we're going to have them switched. So I have the Jags as the third best team. Not to kind of get too far ahead, but
no, I mean we're moving along.
Right, we're moving anyway,
and we're talking about the same two teams, just flip flop.
Right. So
the Titans are my third team.
I think that some of the drama was fueled by frustration last year, and not that Nick Foles is going to alleviate all of that frustration because it won't. But I think he's enough of a step up at quarterback, and I think the leadership. And this isn't a statement because I don't think he got the chance to be the leader that he needed, that Bortles had. But I think that Nick is more established in that regard. So I think that benefits them. I think some of that drama goes away. I think that defense returns to more of that form. I'm not saying like one of the all-time great forms like that almost took them to the Super Bowl, but I think they return more to that form, and I think that's good enough with the addition of Nick Foles and some of the weapons they have. I feel like they have better weapons. Like, Fournette at his best is better than Derrick Henry at his best. Derrick Henry is awesome, but they didn't trust him till the end of the season when they kind of like needed to because they didn't have anyone left.
Right.
And Mariota was hurt. I want to see it from Henry more. Now, you could make that same argument about Fournette, but I think that they have better wide receiver weapons, in my opinion, in Jacksonville. And they have a better defense. While the Tennessee defense did make strides last year and played really well at times, I think Jacksonville's on the swing up. I just feel like the Titans take a step back. And I think that could lead to lots of questions because this is one where I feel like Mariota is not necessarily going to put a strong hold on the job. At best, I feel like it's still up in the air. And then that leads you, all right, well, if we're getting a new quarterback, do we get a new coach? Like, it's been a couple of years. I don't know. I just don't know. And while they had all that stability forever under Jeff Fisher, they've kind of been anti that since. Not crazy, like firing a guy after a year necessarily, but
I think top to bottom, maybe the Jaguars have more potential than the Titans, but I think the Titans are safer.
I can't argue against that, especially what the Jags showed us last year shows us that they can be really bad.
They can be really good or really bad. Right. So I'm just going with the Titans here in third. I mean, this isn't really a vote of confidence with the Titans because I have them being worse.
No, yeah.
It's just I think they're better than the Jaguars.
Right.
So
That's
the
fair.
Titans went 9-7 last year. I have them at 7-9, and it's mostly because I think that if a team can shut down the running game and disrupt Mariota, and surprise, surprise, disrupting a quarterback's not a good for a team, they're in trouble because I don't know how much they have to offset a bad game or the loss of Derrick Henry. They have Deion Lewis. Okay, he's bounced around the league. He's been injured at times. And you mentioned Mariota. He's been injured at times, and they got Tannehill, who's been injured at times. So I just don't like the depth, and I don't like the if Delaney Walker stays healthy, he's really good. Again, who's Cole Pruitt? Is he next up? Receivers, mentioned kind of still improving Corey Davis, Tajay Sharp. Who else? Not a great wide receiver group down there. I do like the offensive line. They brought in Roger Saffold, which makes their line even better. They have David Quessenberry, Taylor Lewan, Dennis, and these aren't all starters. These are starters and depth guys. Dennis Kelly, Hronis Grasu, Jamil Douglas, Jack Conklin. They have, if they don't have the best line in the AFC South, and I think it's debatable, they're right there with the Colts.
Right.
So
I would agree with that.
They need to pound the rock West Coast style offense. That's what they need to do.
Right. And I'm just looking at it. I'm like, but they had that last year. They had that line last year, and the offense still was questionable at best. I feel now, outside of Foles, the offense looks pretty similar to Jacksonville. So, I guess it probably is my Foles indebtedness, creating that. But okay, so I'm gonna go Titans at
They were 9-7 last year.
I'm going to put them at 6 wins this year.
Okay.
And I'm going to put the Jags at the Jags were bad last year. How many?
They were 5-11 last year.
I'm going to put them at 8.
Okay, I have the Jags at 6-10. I have the Titans at 7-9. And again, just to kind of reinforce why I think the Titans are a little bit better, I like the New England flavor they have there with Vrabel at head coach and especially Dean Pease at defensive coordinator. I think their defense got better last year. I think they could go even farther this year. Gerald Casey, Austin Johnson, Daquan Jones, 2 Penn Staters right there. I wish Jeffrey Simmons was healthy enough to play this year, but he's probably going to take a red shirt or at least be on the PUP list. But he could be an anchor and a bullish 3-4 defensive end or 4-3 defensive tackle, depending on what they end up lining up as. I like Rashaan Evans. He's young, has a chance to improve at linebacker. And they brought in my boy Cameron Wake. Like, I can't, I hated him leave Miami. I understand it. But again, Penn State guy and a Dolphins player for a decade plus. So I think he still has something in there as a situational pass rusher. And defensive backfield, I think, is massively underrated. They brought in Imani Hooker, who I hate from his Iowa days, but I love him as a player. Kevin Byard is the best safety that no one knows about, and that was the case last year and will continue this year. Dane Cruikshank, great backup special teams guy. Adoree Jackson, Logan Ryan, and Kenny Vaccaro. Like, I just think
they are really good.
I think maybe their peak or their potential isn't as high as the Jaguars, but I think in one game, I think they can hang. And, so I think they're slightly better than the Jags. Now in second place.
So just all those things aside, which quarterback? If you had to pick one quarterback, do you pick Foles?
But okay, I had this debate in my head already. Is this to take where they are right now and use for my team this year and beyond, or is this you need a quarterback for one game? Because I have 2 different answers then.
Okay. Well,
if I need to win a game, I'll pick Foles because he's done it.
Right.
If I need a guy who I want to build around,
so I'm going to go with
a higher ceiling, I want Mariota.
I think I'm posing, and I don't even really know how I'm posing the question. I think I'm posing the question as if you have to win a game, because we're not picking the future of the franchises. We're picking this season. So I think, like, if it comes down to they're playing for a wild card spot, I don't think they are going to, but, like, let's say week 17 they were playing for a wild card spot. I know there's more to it than just the quarterbacks, but, like, yeah, I'm taking Foles in that. That's why I kind of give them the edge this year. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to stick with it. Which I have zero confidence in it, but I think that the Jags. It might be me just wanting them to be better, but I think the Jags are on the swing up.
All right.
Okay.
So
there we go.
Now decision time.
I think we're going to be the same on this, but I don't know.
All right. My second place team are the Houston Texans.
Yeah, we're the same.
So they're dropping back. They were 11-5 last year. They went 11-2 in the last 13 weeks of the regular season because they started 0-3. People were wondering if Bill O'Brien was going to be gone, and then all he did was win 11 of his next 13 games.
Because they should have started. They should have made the quarterback switch earlier. Deshaun Watson didn't start the season, did he?
No, he did. He was coming off of injury.
Right.
Remember? It was 2017 where he didn't start on the onset.
Oh, see, I thought he didn't start because he was coming off of injury.
No, I don't. I'm starting to doubt myself. No, he returned in the season opener. Yeah.
Against the Patriots. Yeah, I was thinking the year before when it was awful.
Yeah. No, so yeah, Deshaun Watson, bright future, looking good. I don't like the way the season ended for them last year. The Colts dominated them. Yeah. So I still think they have pieces. I still think they have a lot of good players.
Do you feel that the offensive line, which was not just a concern, it was a hindrance on them last year? Do you feel like they improved enough to make them better than the Colts? My answer is no.
Oh, offensive line-wise, absolutely not.
Right, exactly.
So if you gave the Titans line to the Texans,
Super Bowl favorite.
Could be, yeah.
Super Bowl favorite because the defense is good enough.
Playoffs for sure.
Right.
Maybe AFC championships because the offensive line does hold.
Super Bowl favorite
Texans
might be a bit of an extreme, but yeah, I'd pencil them into the AFC championship game.
Top 3 AFC.
They're probably playing the Patriots in the AFC championship game.
Exactly. Deshaun Watson, one of the most electrifying young quarterbacks in the league. Running back wise, Lamar Miller is fine, serviceable. They got Dante Foreman if he can ever get things going. They have Karan Higdon now, from Michigan. Speedster Tywan Jones. So they got stable running backs. It's fine. Maybe not flashy, but good enough. Wide receivers though, man, when they're healthy. DeAndre Hopkins, arguably maybe the best receiver in the league, top to bottom. Will Fuller, probably one of the best speed guys in the league when healthy. Kiki Coty burst onto the scene last year. So I think with those three guys and then what they can trot out there at tight end, Darren Fells is fine, serviceable. They could maybe use another guy at that position, but it all relies on Deshaun Watson and his playmaking 100%. Ability. He gets injured, this team is probably trash.
To step down to A.J. McCarron.
But it's him and Miller and Hopkins, and if Fuller's healthy. But if you lose one of those, it could be tough. It could be tough because that offensive line, I just don't think is that good.
So does this kind of feel like on the offensive side, does this kind of feel like the Saints to you in that sense of
sort of, yeah.
The top guys are really good.
Yeah.
And then there's a little bit of depth, probably more depth at wide receiver.
Well, this kind of goes to the same question you just asked me relating to Titans and Jaguars. Yeah. If we consider Texans and Saints, if you have to win one game, I'm taking Drew Brees. If you're starting a franchise, I'm taking Deshaun Watson.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, running back, that answers Kamara no matter what.
Yeah.
And wide receiver, though, Hopkins or Thomas?
I'm taking. At this point, for a game or for a career.
They're both not. Their age is not that far apart.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I feel like Hopkins.
I'm pretty sure.
I could be just very.
I think this is this his sixth year. Yeah, he's only 26.
Wow.
Now Michael Thomas might only be 23, but
Yeah. So I like the Texans. What did you say? They won 11 games last year?
They're 11-5. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not winning 11 games.
No,
I'll put them at 10 wins though. I still think they're going to be really good.
As long as Watson stays healthy, I think they win 10 games, and that's why I'm at second.
If he's hurt, they could be drafting in the top 5 next
year. But the same thing also can be said about their defense. Clowney has been franchised. They haven't worked out a deal with him. Watt has been in. Watt was the best defensive player in the league a few years ago, but he hasn't been himself the last 2 or 3 years. The linebackers don't jump out to me. I like Benardrick McKinney and Whitney Marcellus has had a few years. Got exposed
last year against the Colts.
All of a sudden things started to fall apart. Mm-hmm. So. That's the biggest question mark.
Right. They need
offensive line and defense. I think they need some pieces. So I'm still going to give them an edge at 10-6, but I think it's kind of wavering. So our number one team then is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. They were 10-6 last year.
I thought they were a year away last year.
They beat the Texans in the wild card playoffs, and they kind of got exposed by the Chiefs a little bit in the next round.
But if you look at how they built last year,
well, and also they started out terrible. Right, they were awful. That AFC South was crazy because the Jaguars started terrible. The Colts started terrible, and the Texans started terrible. The first 5-6 weeks of that season, it was like, who's going to win the South? I guess it's going to be the Titans.
Right, and by the end, you had the Colts and the Texans, who no one wanted to play either one of them. Right?
Yeah. The Colts were 1-5 on October 14th after Week 6. Then they go to Buffalo in Week 7 to win 37-5, and they just started putting up points. And then, other than the really weird and out of character December 2nd game in Week 13 against the Jaguars that they lost 6-0.
Yeah.
I think they scored no less than 23 points. And usually, like we always say, 23 is kind of like the threshold. Like if my team's scoring 23 points, I better win that game. Well, they did it. Every time they scored 23 points from Week 7 on, they won the game.
Yeah.
They got a few good defensive performances from their defense against the Bills. Gave up 5 points. Titans gave up 10 points. Cowboys shut them out. So they had the 1 point win against the Giants, but. I don't know. The Colts just seem to come on at the right time. They won that playoff game against their rival, the Texans. So I just think another year now that Andrew Luck has proved that he can still do it.
And
He's
that
healthy.
that line's going to gel some more because they were great last year with some rookies.
Right.
Oh, man.
And that's the thing. They now have Costanza, who kind of just was there in peril. Manning kind of left, and he got thrown in the ringer, and then Luck got injured. Costanza's got to be thinking, man, I'm protecting these guys. We're not getting anywhere. Well, all of a sudden, you got Ryan Kelly, you got Quentin Nelson, Jamarcus Webb. They just all of a sudden they went from having a terrible team in line to being back up there where they were before Luck got hurt. And they don't got too bad of a backup behind Luck anymore with Jacoby Brissett because people have been trying to trade for him. Yeah. And now the running back situation is one of those, it's definite committee. Marlon Mack's the go-to guy, but they got Spencer Ware there now.
Naheem
Hines. Right. And, we'll see what they can do there. Man, wouldn't it be great if they could find a playmaker, a running back to go with Luck? Because their wide receivers are really good. They brought in Devin Funchess, and they they have T.Y. Hilton, who, when he's healthy, Luck to Hilton.
Paris Campbell is an interesting weapon there.
Adding Funchess was key because I think they've got a decent trio there now, and then the addition of the rookie. Yeah. And then tight end, Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron may be one of the best duo tight ends in the league. Eric Ebron burst onto the scene last year after being kind of a disappointment in Detroit, had a renaissance there with the Colts and Andrew Luck. Yep. So offensively, I think they're okay because they got Luck in a good offensive line, and then they got pieces that fit their style.
Have you ever been to that stadium? That's kind of random, but just the Colts
outside,
stadium.
Not inside.
Man, it's really cool. It is really cool. I've been in domes that feel like this was built to put a roof over. That stadium feels like you're in a stadium that they just put a roof over. You know what I mean? It's really cool.
Now, defensively, this is another spot that maybe names don't jump out to people, but, Darius Leonard was the Rookie of the Year last year, a linebacker for them.
Had an absurd number of tackles.
Yeah, he was all over the field.
Absurd number of tackles.
Defensive line, they added Justin Houston, who's an edge guy, a pass rush guy from the Chiefs, and they've got Jabal Sheard, Marcus Hunt, It's not a lot of big names, not guys that stand out or some guys that maybe have moved on to their second or third destination, but they got it done. Now, defensive back-wise, Jalen Collins, Pierre Desir, Malik Hooker. Yep.
Whip your guy.
And Quincy Wilson, and then they added Rock Ya-Sin from Temple, who was their first pick of the draft. It was in the, I think it was the 34th pick overall, so early second round. I think that's...
And still kicking...
and still kicking Adam Vinatieri. So when you have that, you're probably okay. No. Now, we like their head coach and Frank Reich.
Yeah.
Cedar Crest guy, South Central, Southeastern Pennsylvania. Don't know too much about their coordinators, but that sometimes can be a good thing.
Right. No, I agree.
They did bring Robert Mathis back as a pass rush consultant, so that's fun to see him there. And Howard Mudd is as an offensive assistant as well.
And that's good for them.
During
that is good
their
for them.
heyday with Manning when they were winning, Robert Mathis as a player and then Howard Mudd as a coach were key cogs. So I like the Colts. They were, 10-6 last year. I think they're 11-5 this year.
I put them at 11-5 as well.
And I think they're winning that division.
I agree.
So we're pretty similar in this.
We just switched our 3 and 4.
Yeah, so our 3 and 4 got flip-flop. I go Jaguars 4. You said Titans 3. I went Titans 3. You said, or Titans. Yeah, Titans 3. You said Jaguars 3. But 2 the Texans and 1 the Colts.
Right.
So that's where we are.
I think Texans and Colts could be a fun race to watch this year.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree there. All right. So, I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah.
We will be back next week. Are you working Bible school?
No.
No. Okay. So you're free.
Yes. I will have to drop off and pick up Austin.
Okay. Well, maybe the timing will be a little different. We'll have to talk about it. But we should be back next week where we'll get to do the AFC and NFC North. So that'll be fun. Teams that we're a little bit more familiar with as we now get to talk about the Ravens and Steelers.
AFC North could be an interesting conversation.
Yeah,
we've had some of that conversation, I believe.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
So, yeah.
And then we don't want to forget the NFC North because that one's always interesting with the history there.
Yeah.
Vikings, Packers, Bears, Lions. You got the 100th anniversary of the NFL being celebrated, and those teams are going to be front and center.
Rightfully having the kickoff to the NFL season.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I think that's about it. Just a couple of shout-outs here. One, today, happy birthday, Brent.
Yeah.
Happy early birthday, Haley. I can't believe she will be 4 on Thursday.
Man. Your youngest. Your baby man.
Yeah, I know. It's unsettling.
Old man.
Unsettling.
See, calling you an old man does not help me
Does
because
not help, no.
I'm older.
And sure, there's probably plenty that I'm forgetting, but those are the two off the top of my head. Yeah, do you have any to add?
Shout out to the District 3 6A baseball champions,
Wilson Bulldogs. They're playing state playoffs tomorrow at Fredericksburg.
I think Penn Trafford.
Penn Trafford. And, there's some potential there for them to maybe get into the state Final Four. And, they bring back nearly everyone next year.
Yeah, I saw this. Paul Roberts tweeted this. I confirmed it on Friday at school. But the starters. Now, that is based on who was pitching and at that time,
right,
and stuff like that. But the starting lineup for that district championship game was 10 underclassmen, including a DH.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That is crazy. Also, congratulations to the graduates of Wilson High School, class of 2019, in the books, Dunzo, and this is the last week of school with. At the high school level, 2 full days and 3 half days. And my daughter's elementary, so she's got 3 full days and 2 half days.
That's
but
right.
We are looking forward to the end of the school year because the end of the school year means the air show is this weekend.
Oh, I thought it meant we're closer to football season.
Well, I mean, that's a given. I don't even have to say that. But
because by the time they're back in school, you'll have 2 football games. Well, you'll have 1 football game underway, and then Mifflin's up.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about when they start again. But, this weekend we are going to the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum World War II weekends out at the Reading Regional Airport. Awesome. This will be Natalie's 3rd trip there.
I've never been.
Oh, my gosh, you have to take Austin. How have you not had Austin at that? You have to take him. It's a great event. It's supposed to be a pretty nice weekend, too. So it's a great event all day Friday, Saturday, a little bit shorter on Sunday because the plane's got to get going. But if you want to see a collection of warbirds from the 40s, most American, but some Japanese, German, British, and it's really cool. They got the huge planes that, you're like, physically, science-wise, how does this thing fly?
Right, how does this
and
thing up in the
2,
air?
this thing is 70-plus years old. Do I want to go up in this? Now, that costs a lot of money to do,
right.
But it's gone through my head. It's like, if I could ever scrounge enough money to go on one of these, I would like to go on one of these.
Cool.
So it is really cool. They do a para jumps. They have reenactments. They also have singers from the time period. They do a lot for the veterans. There's cool stuff to look at and buy. So it's a lot of fun. And Natalie's enjoyed it the first 2 times we've taken her. And we're taking her again this Friday.
Awesome.
So it's going to be a great, great time. But I think that's it. Nothing else to add. We'll put a bow on episode 278. We'll be back next Sunday, June 9th. For episode 279, continuing our 2019 NFL preview with a look at the North Divisions. For Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. This has been the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. We will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
On Facebook Live.
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.